Hi, this is Dr. Sandy Queen with Queen Homeschool Supplies, and I'm continuing my video series today on the Charlotte Mason approach. This is the Charlotte Mason approach to language arts, and today we're going to talk about the third level of language arts in a Charlotte Mason style education. And again, this is all outlined in my book on language arts, a Charlotte Mason approach, which you can find at queenhomeschool.com, along with everything else I'm going to show you today. I want to talk about copywork. And for me, copywork is a very frequently integrated subject in the Charlotte Mason approach. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's the one that I put off doing the longest. When I heard about copywork, I thought to myself, well, that sounds like twaddle. You know, something that Charlotte Mason called twaddle, busy work, something that's just giving the child something to do for the sake of saying that we did something for a few minutes. And I didn't do it with my kids, and I thought it was a waste of time. But the more I looked into it and learned about it, the more I thought, you know what, I just have to give it a try. And a friend encouraged me to try it, and once I did, I was hooked. Once we started doing copywork correctly, and I am going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk in fast forward because I found that the optimal length to upload these videos to Facebook is about 12 minutes maximum, and I could talk for about an hour on copywork, so I'm going to talk really fast. Okay, so copywork is the simple act of copying something over, and you know, sometimes we make the mistake, or I'm going to call it a mistake because I've made this and called it a mistake when I did it. We were reading through a particular book series, Little House on the Prairie series, okay? And I thought, I'm just going to start copywork. I've never done it before, and I'm going to have my children copy one little paragraph each day from the book that we're reading, and we're going to do copywork with it. And I found for me in doing copywork that way that it very much was the twaddle that I feared it would be. And I'm saying that because it doesn't really give the child a lot of variety. The whole purpose of copywork is not for handwriting. It's to practice the mechanics of the English language. And I'm going to talk about some of the different things that we have for copywork and how that can differ. But traditional copywork is to practice the mechanics of the English language, how things are capitalized and punctuated and used and that kind of stuff. Okay, so for me, at the beginning when we first started doing copywork, and I soon realized that, okay, so what I'm doing here is just not giving them the variety that Charlotte Mason recommended they practice each day. I started compiling stuff for my kids to use for copywork that would give them that variety, and it took so long for me to do that, and thankfully I compiled it all for you so that you don't have to. So we have two different series, Copywork for Young Ones and Thematic Copywork Lessons. The Copywork for Young Ones is for younger kids, grades about 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, and the Thematic Copywork Lessons are about 4th grade through high school level. And the difference I want to show you is that the Copywork for Young Ones series is going to have shorter lessons each day, and they're going to have lines directly under each lesson where the child can copy the material so that a young child doesn't have to deal with the frustration of looking back and forth from a notebook to the book that they're copying from. The older child is ready for that challenge too, so they have longer lessons, smaller font. They write in a separate notebook for their lessons. But the difference between using something like these books, and there's many more volumes from which to choose at queenhomeschool.com under the language arts section where you see the copywork listed. The difference between using these and something like a book of literature is that these have a lot of variety. There's different sorts of things to copy in each lesson. So when the child, and that's the same type of copywork that we're using when we have our copywork lessons in the language lessons series book, which teach grammar and instructive writing and have the color picture studies, but also include sporadic copywork. We're using traditional copywork. So here's how it works. Let's say you have a short lesson to copy that day, and I'm going to always tell the child before they do copywork for the first couple times, just so they know the rules, okay? You're going to copy this today, and it's very short, just these couple of lines right here. You're going to copy them here, and I want you to pay special attention because you see here that there's some quotation marks in this selection that you're going to do today, and there's a comma here, and there's a period, and you want to make sure that you notice where the quotation marks come after the period at the end of the sentence, not before the period at the end of the sentence. And make sure that you see these capital letters here. Make sure that's where you have capital letters when you copy it also. And if you don't throw any extra capital letters in there where there aren't any here, you want to copy it just like this. And I'm not going to tell the child this, but this is the truth. I'm not concerned about their handwriting at all when they're doing traditional copy work. What I'm concerned about is that they're paying attention to the mechanics of the English language, because that's what we're practicing here, okay? It's a popular misconception that the handwriting also has to be perfect. Not necessarily, not with traditional copy work, because it gives the child too many things to focus on at one time. And the Charlotte Mason approach is all about short, focused, do your best, move on to something else. Okay, so after they copy it, I remind them again before they bring it to me to look at, because that's what they're going to do when they're done. Okay, make sure you go back and look at it again and make sure that you have the periods and the commas and the quotation marks and the indentations and the capital letters and everything just like it is in the selection that you copied from. And if not, fix it now, because once you bring it to me, if I find any of those things are not correct, you're not going to be able to fix it. You're going to have to erase the whole lesson and do it over again the same day. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow you're going to have one to do anyhow. But if you have to go through that process, if the child has to go through that process of erasing that whole lesson and doing it over again the same day because they didn't pay attention to every little detail, that's painful. But that's really what makes copy work effective. It's hard for us as the parent to be the mean guy and to say, I'm sorry, you have to erase it all and do it again the same day. But let me tell you, that's the key to making copy work effective right there. Once you go through that, once the child goes through that, they're usually not going to go through it again unless they just get lazy. Because I'm talking about a child without any learning disabilities, but that is, you want to encourage them to develop that habit of paying attention that we talked about in one of my earlier videos. All right, so all that said, that is how you do traditional copy work. We at Queen Homeschool Supplies do have a couple other series using Copywork. We have the Learning to Spell Through Copywork and the Pictures in Cursive and the Printing with Pictures, which are handwriting. And these are using Copywork, but not traditional copy work, and I'm going to show you the difference here. I just talked about the wide variety of different skills that you'll practice in the traditional copy work. Okay, in the Pictures in Cursive series, which is using Copywork, again, because Charlotte Mason recommended the short lessons, very focused, this is a whole week's worth of lessons. You have this beautiful painting here, and then you have one sentence each day that's relating to the painting. So it's something about the painting each day that they're going to have to read, look to the painting to find it. They're not answering any questions. It's just to train them, pay attention to detail, okay, and to expose them to the beautiful artwork. And then they are going to copy that one sentence, and you're going to find there's not a lot of variety. There's no real variety in the capitalization and punctuation in these sentences. There's a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end, because here I do care about the handwriting, and here I'm going to point out those details the same way I did in the traditional copy work, only I'm going to tell the child this is a different type of copy work. In this type of copy work, we're going to make sure that we pay attention to all the details of how those letters are formed. And you can see some of the letters are taller than that middle line, some are hang down below, some have open loops, some have closed points. Make sure you have dots on the I's and the J's where you see them, and crosses on the T's where you see them. And those are the things that I'm looking for when they bring it to me at the end. And if it doesn't look perfect there, because there's not a lot of variety with the skills, it's more the look. Then they're going to have to erase it and do it over again the same day. And when I say perfect, not every child is going to have absolute perfect muscle control and make their letters look perfectly like this, like the font. But you know what their level of best is, and that's what I'm looking for here. I want it to be their best. I want to see the effort and that's going to be accepted as perfect, okay? So that's not the same as traditional copywork, but it's still giving you that very focused, very short lesson, very do your best, pay attention to every detail, and or if not, you're going to have to suffer the consequences by doing it over again on the same day as many times as it takes until it is acceptable. The same rule applies with the Learning to Spell Through Copywork series, and here you're going to see very short. This is an entire week right here. Okay, so on Monday we have a rule for that week. I'm going to read that rule aloud to the child. They're going to read me the words that follow that rule aloud, so I know they were listening when I read them the rule. They're going to copy those words, and then they have one sentence they're going to read me and then copy. And those sentences, of course, are using the words from that week as well as previous weeks, wherever we could use those as well. And again, these are copywork, but there's no variety with the capitalization and punctuation, because that's not what we're focusing on here. We have a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence and a punctuation mark at the end of the sentence, because here it's forcing them to focus on the spelling rules that we're reviewing each day. So on Monday, when I introduce that new rule and I read it aloud, they read me the words aloud, they read me the one sentence, they copy the one sentence. Every other day that week, we go over the rule and the words again, and then they do one more sentence focusing on those words. So again, using copywork and the Learning to Spell Through copywork, but not that traditional copywork that's focusing on the mechanics of the English language. So I hope that's helped you to understand more about copywork and how we use it in our different programs here at queenhomeschool.com. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about dictation, which would be the final level of language arts in the Charlotte Mason style education. So I hope you're enjoying these videos as much as I am enjoying doing them from my office here at the Holistic Wellness Center.